Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. If you are here for the very first time, karibu sana. Please stick to the end of this podcast video, whatever this is. But also remember to subscribe, to click the notification bell so that you don't miss any of the videos that will go up after this one. If you're a returning listener, thank you so very much for being part of this Bible summary journey. I really, truly appreciate you. We are currently going through the book of Judges. I feel like I've said that I don't know, which chapter are we in? I've said that many times. And today we'll be covering Judges chapter 16, which is still the story of Samson. So I'm going to be reading this from the easy to read version and later sharing my lessons from the chapter. So stay glued to the story. This is actually one of the saddest stories of the Old Testament. Honestly, for me, this is it. All right, let me just read it before I start, feeling all sad. All right, so it says Samson goes to the city of Gaza. One day, Samson went to the city of Gaza. He saw a prostitute there and went in to stay the night with her. Someone told the people of Gaza, Samson has come here. They wanted to kill him, so they surrounded the city and they hid near the city gate and waited all night for him. They were very quiet all night long. They had said to each other, when morning comes, we will kill Samson. But Samson only stayed with the prostitute until midnight. Then he got up and he grabbed the doors of the city gate and pulled them loose from the wall. This guy, oh my God, this guy was Superman. It's just see, people are just hiding there in the middle of the night. They're waiting until morning. He just grabbed the doors of the city gate. These are what now? I don't even know because we don't have city gates, but these are the gates, assume the gates of your estate. So he's grabbed them. They have, come off from the wall. They become loose from the wall. And he pulled the doors of the two posts of the bars and locked the doors shut. He put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill of the city of Hebron. So he's basically left that city without gates. It's you wanted to kill me. I'm even going to remove these gates of yours. Then you're going to be completely vulnerable. Anybody can come and attack you. That was Samson for you. All right. That story actually ends there. That story, the end. Then we move on to the next thing, which says, later, Samson fell in love with a woman called Delilah. It's not even this prostitute. This is now lady number 3. So Samson fell in love with a woman called Delilah. Oh yeah. Who was from Sorek Valley. The rulers of the Philistines went to Delilah and said, we want to know what makes Samson strong. Try to trick him into telling his secret. Then we will know how to capture him, tie him up, and then we'll be able to control him. If you do this, we will each give you 28 pounds of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, tell me why you are so strong. How could someone tie you up and make you helpless? She wasn't even trying to go around the corner. She was just straight up. But of course, she probably was, sweet as she's asking. She was probably, seducing the guy as she's asking. So Samson answered, someone would tie me up with 7 fresh new bowstrings. If someone did this, I would be as weak as any other man. Then the rulers of Philistine brought 7 fresh new bowstrings to Delilah. Then he tied Samson with the bowstrings. Some men were hiding in the next room. Delilah said to Samson, Samson, the Philistines' men are going to capture you. But Samson easily broke the bowstrings. They snapped like a string when it comes to close to a flame. So the Philistines did not find the secret to Samson's strength. Then, Delilah, I'm not going to read the whole of it. Then Delilah asked the second time, Samson gave a lie the second time. She asked the third time. Samson still gave the a lie the second time, the third time. So Delilah actually asked 3 times. So I'm going to jump all the way from this is from verse 1, from verse 6 all the way to verse 15. And basically what is happening there is Delilah is asking, Samson is telling a lie. Delilah is asking, Samson is telling a lie. And every single time they would do whatever it is that Samson has told them, and it wouldn't work. Then Delilah said to Samson, 3 times after, of course, he said, how can you say I love you when you don't even trust me? You refuse to tell me your secret. This is the third time you made me look like a fool. You haven't even told me the secret of your great strength. She kept bothering Samson day after day. He got so tired of her asking him about his secret that he felt like he was going to die. Me, I'm like, at this point, so you leave this woman. You're not even married to her. Like, you've already seen what she wants to do. She's trying to get you bound to, like, the intentions are not nice. And you can see that the intentions are not nice. So are you really in love, so much in love with this woman that you're going to let her trick you into being killed? Anyway, so he says he got so tired of asking, and then he felt like he was going to die. So finally, Samson told Delilah everything, and he said, I have never had my hair cut. I was dedicated to God before I was born. If someone shaved my head, I would lose my strength, and I would become as weak as any other man. All right, let me just pause right there and say that to just make this clarification, that the strength was not coming from the hair. The strength was coming from the Spirit of the Lord, who would come upon him, and then he would empower him greatly. But the hair, and leaving it uncut for as long as he's lived, was the public show of, I have a covenant with God. So when you cut that hair, it's basically saying, me and my covenant with God, we are done. It's basically getting out of that covenant with God. So if he was to cut his hair, it's not because the strength was in his hair, but it's because he's cutting the public sign or symbol of this covenant that he has with God. So it's basically saying, I have stepped out of this covenant. All right. So Delilah saw that Samson had told her his secret. She sent a message to the rulers of Philistine, and she said, come back again. Samson has told me everything. So the rulers of Philistine came back and brought the money that they had promised to give her. Delilah got Samson to go to sleep while his head was lying in her lap. Then she called in a man to shave off the 7 braids of Samson's hair. In this way, she made Samson weak, and his strength left him. Then Delilah called out to him, Samson, the Philistine men are going to capture you. He woke up and thought, I will escape, as I did before, and free myself. But Samson did not know that the Lord had left him, because now he has shaved his hair. It's like he's telling the Lord, I've stepped out of this covenant, so the Spirit of the Lord has left. The Philistine came and captured Samson. They tore out his eyes and took him down to the city of Gaza. Then they put chains on him, and they kept him from running away. They put him in prison and made him work grinding grain. But his hair began to grow again. Like, how sad is this? Now the guy has been captured, he's been dragged all the way to the city of Gaza, he's been put in chains, and now he's in the prison and he's a slave and he grinds grain. So his hair starts to grow again. The Philistine rulers came together to celebrate. They were going to offer a great sacrifice to their god with a small g called Dagon. They said, our God, with a small g, has helped us defeat Samson, our enemy. When the Philistines saw Samson, they praised their God. And they said, this man destroyed our people. He killed many of our people, but our God has helped us to take our enemy. So they're basically singing praises to their idol God. The people are having a good time at the celebration. So they said, bring Samson out. We want to make fun of him. So they brought Samson from the prison and made fun of him. They made him stand between the columns in the temple of the god Dagon. A servant who was holding his hand, Samson said to him, put me where I can feel the columns that hold up this temple. I want to lean against them. Then the temple was crowded with men and women. All the Philistine rulers were there. There were about 3,000 men and women on the rooftop of the temple. So there were 3,000 people sitting on the rooftop. There were, of course, other people who were not in the rooftop, they were just like in the temple. And they were laughing and making fun of Samson. Then Samson said a prayer to the Lord. He said, Lord God, remember me. God, please give me strength one more time. Let me do this one thing to punish these Philistines for tearing out both my eyes. Then Samson took hold of the 2 columns in the center of the temple that supported the whole temple. He braced himself between these 2 temples. One column was on his right hand and the other one was on his left hand. And Samson said, "Let me die with these Philistines." Then he pushed as hard as he could, and the temple fell on the rulers and everyone in it. And in this way, Samson killed many more Philistines when he died than when he was alive. So Samson's brother and all the people of his father's family went down to get his body. They brought him back and buried him in his father's tomb, which is between the city of Zorah and Ashtaol. And Samson was a judge for the Israelites for 20 years. What? Oh my goodness, let me tell you guys, this is the saddest stories for me in the whole of the Old Testament. The whole of it. I remember watching this story of Samson in those Bible movies, like those Bible story movies when I was a kid. And I remember Samson without eyes. I remember him being pulled with a chariot. I remember him being a slave and grinding grains. Like, it was so sad to watch. This is the end of Samson. It is the end of this Superman of the Old Testament. A man who God had set up for success, but he still became a failure because his own personal choices were against what God's instructions were. Yes, so at the end of the day, he killed more Philistines than anybody in his time did. But I truly believe that if he had been obedient to God, he would have still killed the Philistines and he would have lived a full life. So yes, he killed the Philistines and the purposes of God was accomplished. But he had such a horrible life. Like, oh my goodness. Samson was promiscuous. He was violent. He was arrogant. And he allowed his anger to rule him and disregarded everything that God had instructed. I wonder what went wrong. Manoah, who was his father, was there when the angel of the Lord gave the instructions. Is it he that he didn't raise Samson well? Is it that he didn't teach his son of God's law? Is there something that he could have done to contain his son? Honestly, this story is so sad. I don't want God's purposes for me to be accomplished in this way. I don't want them to be accomplished in my disobedience. I don't want to be without friends, living in caves, marrying the wrong people, eyes gouged out, being enslaved, and finally dying a horrible, painful death. I want to be obedient. I want to have every good gift that God can give. I want to have godly friends. I want to marry right. I want to do exploits for God and still have a really nice, cozy life. Because no one in the Bible, no one, not even a single person who trusted and feared God had a terrible life. Every person who had a terrible life is because they didn't trust God, they didn't fear God. Like Samson, he had a terrible, terrible life. And you see, the thing for me is that I want you guys to also experience God in the most fulfilling, in the most beautiful way. I pray that you would trust and fear God and that his purposes for your life will be accomplished in the most fulfilling way possible. Not in this painful way that, Samson, it's so sad. I don't want this to happen to me. It really is sad. So my prayer for you is that you would trust God, that you would fear God. Even this is actually a prayer for myself as well, that I would trust God and I would fear God, and that his purposes for my life will be accomplished in the most fulfilling and the most beautiful way possible. This is your girl, Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.